Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. This episode is sponsored by Happy Fox Health, a natural supplement brand focused on sea moss, a marine algae that has 92 out of 102 essential nutrients that your body needs to thrive and regenerate. I've used a number of their products and found it's really given me clarity of mind. Visit happyfoxhealth.com and use promo code THECRAFT for an exclusive 15 to 20% discount off your first product purchase. As a number of you know, I'm also a certified sound therapy practitioner and founder of Oto Healing, a sound therapy studio and practice. Sound has been a healing modality through many cultures for thousands of years. Oto's approach to sound is rooted in both art and science, the art being the history of sound, the science being quantum physics, biology, brainwave states, and more. All listeners of the show get 15% off their first private 1-hour session. Visit otohealing.com to book yours now. Anna Hyde has an animated energy that in turn energizes all of those around her. The co-founder of luxury linen bedding company, Flax Home, has a million creative ideas and personal interests, and she develops deep relationships with others quickly. Prior to launching Flax with 2 business partners, she was in restaurants and hospitality, running the Hawksworth Group's Belle Cafe for 7 years. She was born outside of Toronto in a town called Newmarket, before her parents bought a piece of 5-acre land where her civil servant father built their family home with friends over a summer. Her mother homeschooled Anna and her sister, wanting them to have a broader experience through the amount of time spent at the library, going to plays, and doing extracurricular activities. Each year, her mother always asked them if they wanted to go to regular school, and when Anna was 12 years old, she made the choice to go to high school. There, she played field hockey and immersed herself in theater. After high school, she went to the University of Guelph, where she got her Bachelor of Commerce. She was hired by longtime hospitality veteran Chad Clark to manage Belle Cafe, the cafe side of Hawksworth restaurant, after a role at the Fairmont's Empress Hotel and a stint in wine sales. He gave her the task of getting to know everyone in the downtown core and treating them as if she was welcoming them into her own home. It was there that she met her friends and future business partners, who were regular customers with whom she often brainstormed ideas. In 2017, they launched direct-to-consumer Flax Sleep, now known as Flax Home, which has grown quickly since coming to market and has a showroom and warehouse in East Vancouver. In this conversation, we talk about the nature of homeschooling and how it allowed her to love learning, how growing up doing theater and performing dovetailed nicely into her hospitality career, the way she developed friendships with her Belle Cafe customers, Anna's natural journey into entrepreneurship, exercising her love for arts and creativity in business, the process of growing quality linen, how her business partners are mirrors for her, the things that bring Anna joy, and much more. Please enjoy this lively conversation with the sharp, creative, and spirited Anna Hyde. Anna Hyde.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to The Craft.
Good. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, so am I. So am I. We owe a huge thank you to Amanda Lee Smith.
We sure do.
Who is the person who connected us.
Yeah.
Amanda is a previous guest. And after she was done recording, she was like, you need to meet Anna. And I was like, you know what? I do. Why don't you make the intro?
And when she told me, I was like, you told May to reach out to me?
Oh my God.
So I was very flattered.
We made it happen
We did.
because I think our first chat was sometime in the summer, and then there were just a bunch of things going on, and here we are on a rainy November afternoon.
Months later.
Months later.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. Yeah. When we met, I was at the beginning of a bit of a nomadic summer where I moved out of my home of 7.5 years and sort of bounced around for a few months. And now I'm back in a new space and finally starting to feel settled there.
Good.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it hard to leave your old place? 7 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Nearly a decade.
Yeah. It was, and it was really a place that it was a home. Like I'm settled in my new place and it's nice, but I still have like pangs of feeling homesick. And it was the first place that I rented, but lived myself and really allowed, probably for the first time in my adult life, to like re-engage with the creative side of myself and the things that my sort of adult businesshood life hadn't made space and time for. And it was a place where I had a group of women form craft night and where I built furniture for my space and did art and learned to indigo dye and made sourdough bread, fermented so many things, and went through a lot of changes, both personal and in my career as well. And so really special place in my heart. And so, yeah, it was difficult to leave. And I'm trying to look at it will be exciting to make this place a home or to spend some time there as I journey to where my next true home is.
Right. I mean, places hold memory too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I was thinking about it the other day. I mean, I live in Mount Pleasant. I've been in my space for 5 years.
Yeah.
Going on 6, I think, next. Yeah, I think it'll be 6 next year. And it is 5 now. Anyways, a significant amount of time. And I had been thinking, when I do, because that time will come where I'm going to want to move elsewhere, maybe to a bigger space, reflecting on like, oh my gosh, my time in that place will have represented a huge chapter of my life because I moved in there sort of in my corporate career years. And there was a lot of growth during those years. Yeah. And so it's really interesting to think about homes as memory holders.
Yeah, definitely.
And where are you now? You went from South Granville to...
So actually elsewhere? I was at Trout Lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so East Vancouver to a different part of East Vancouver. I'm in the Fraserhood now. Okay. And actually basically right in the middle of Viv and Juana, my 2 business partners. So we're all like, I'm on Fraser, Juana's a block off Fraser, Viv is 2 blocks off Fraser. So we're all in a corridor, very close together.
Very close.
Easy walking distance. Great neighborhood, lots of trips to Ubuntu.
Love that spot.
Which my old neighborhood local was Florist, which I miss, but our office is across the street from their Hastings location. So I still get all the florist I need. And I'm actually doing a few sort of guest star shifts at Florist in the evenings.
No way.
Right now. Yes, because I do miss my hospitality life. It's amazing. It's just like riding a bike. And
oh my gosh.
It's really fun to be back doing that.
That's lovely. Oh, you know what? And you mentioned Ubuntu. Shout out to the folks at Ubuntu because they are so lovely.
So lovely.
And I was there maybe a couple of weeks ago. It was a friend's birthday dinner. I had arrived later. I had another dinner, but I had just come to hang out.
Yeah.
And before I left, before we all left actually, the lovely folks gave us bread.
Amazing.
And they were like, take this loaf home. And it's like, what? This is so nice. Who does this?
Sometimes it happens at Florist at the end of the night too. Can't guarantee it. No promises. But
listeners of Van, hot tips.
It is such a nice sort of surprise and delight. And I think that, when that happens, when you're engaging in service and things like that can happen and it resonates. It's, for them, they were like, we need to get rid of this bread. Yeah. And for you, it resonates.
It was a gift. It was a kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so meaningful.
It is really meaningful. Yeah. Well, I love this for you. You're kind of in this new chapter, exciting transition of life.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Shall we go back in time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go back to Ontario, just outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
Tell me about young you and childhood.
Yeah. So I was born in a town called Newmarket, and then we moved probably when I was 3 or 4. My parents sold their house, and we lived in a trailer on my grandfather. My mother had grown up on a farm, and he'd sold the farmland, and it was a sod farm, but the farmhouse was still there. So we lived in a tent trailer. My 1-year-old sister, my mom, myself, and my dad on the property for, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 months. They bought a piece of land just outside of a small town called Sutton. 5 acres, and my dad designed and built our family home. So talk about homeschooling memories. And so he worked his whole life as a civil servant for the city of Toronto. And he took the summer off, and they bought just cases and cases of beer, and his friends came and built a home. And so he went to school for engineering and then became a surveyor. So handy. So I grew up there. And my mom lived there right up until almost just a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And so I lived there until I moved out. I was homeschooled. And so, I call it hippie homeschooling. I believe that there's sort of two trains of homeschooling and two different sort of reasons why people do it, and both are good for those people. For my mom, it was more about exposing us to more of the world and not sheltering us, and that thought that if we weren't just put into school with other kids our age, we could actually have broader experiences and meet more people, despite the fact we were in a very small, not diverse town. But we could do it through mostly the amount of time we spent at the library, through the literature we read, through the plays we watched, through the extracurricular activities that we got sent to. And so there was always a sense of being able to connect with children our age through extracurricular activities, but allowing ourselves to learn what we wanted to learn and read a ton. And so I did not go to school until I was 12.
That seems to be a long time.
It was a long time. Yeah.
Especially for someone who went through just normal school.
Yeah. If I think about 12-year-old kids, or I think about my friends who have children, my mom did not work. They created their life so that my dad worked, and sometimes a lot of times two jobs, so that our family was supported and my mom could stay at home with us. And we learned, and I say we because I have a younger sister, we learned to, I think, really love learning. And we were in choice about the fact that we were homeschooled. So probably let's say around grade 2 or 3, my mom would ask us every year, do you want to go to school next year? Do you want to keep staying home and doing it the way we're doing it, or do you want to go to school? And I remember sort of as I reached the end of grade 5, she was like, what do you want to do next year? I'm like, I think it's time. I think I'd like to go see what that's about.
Right.
I think I'm ready to sort of be a teenager at school.
Yeah, and meet new people. You're sort of in that time of your life where you're trying to explore and connect with others.
Yeah, carve out those people that are really at the same place that you're at. And I think that it's interesting because sometimes people, when you tell someone that you're homeschooled, an initial reaction can be like, well, you homeschooled kids are under socialized. Like, I don't think that's my problem. I think that I'm, have always been outgoing by nature. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was homeschooled and put into situations where I learned to connect with not just the people that I was put into a classroom with, but whomever was around me.
Right.
And I think for different kids, it might be different, but certainly for myself and for my sister, we're both outgoing in very different ways. But it worked really well. And my sister also went to school when she was 12 as well. So she followed the same path.
She followed suit.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
She didn't love it at first as much, but then really latched onto it and excelled in a very traditional sense, in that she was, grade school valedictorian and president of the athletic society. And I always just did fine. I did a lot of theater and art-based extracurriculars, but I also played some sports in high school. I did field hockey. It was because it was the first year they had that team, so you didn't have to be athletic. They just let everybody on.
Were you good though?
By the time 5 years in, and I was in Ontario at a time where we still had OAC, so by year 5, I actually considered, would this be something I'd want to do at a varsity level in university? And I went to a try it. I'm like, oh no, I'm not good.
You're so that's not going to happen.
No.
So let me just go back to theater or something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Artistic.
Or let's just split the difference and go into business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do think that it is, or at least I feel that at some point doing team sports when you're younger is a really good experience because you do learn, those characteristics of like teamwork and, feeling like you're going for a goal with a team together and all the discipline, all of these things. And so I grew up playing team sports. And so I'm very thankful for that. I think it's just a really good experience, whether you're gifted in that way or not.
And I think that, for me, I went to a large high school because it was an amalgamation of a lot of small towns. And there was a big breadth and depth of like type of kid you went to school with. And so the type of kid that played sports was different than the type of kid I was in drama club with. And so the fact that I did all of those things, like, continued to build on that, like, my interest in being able to connect with not just like this one group of people. And so I think that it helped keep that part of myself rounded out. I think,
right.
well.
Yeah. A little bit like the Breakfast Club,
Yeah,
where everything's separate, but you were sort of able to chameleon into to whatever group. I think that's a really, really good skill to have.
Yeah.
That's so good. I would love to learn, you were talking about your mother.
Yes.
I would love to know a little bit more about her and then also your father, about their personalities.
Yeah. So my mom is the oldest of 8, but with a break. So she has half siblings. And she's the only girl until the very youngest, who's also a girl. And the youngest is actually 3 weeks younger than myself. So,
wow.
So an interesting family dynamic. So that farmhouse that we had lived on the trailer on, 3 of my mom's siblings were my age. So Heather's 3 weeks younger, and then Peter and Matthew were a few years older. And so they grew up more like cousins than they did like aunts and uncles. And so she grew up on a farm, went to nursing school, was a nurse, met my dad at a bar in town where he ID'd her because he thought she was cute.
And wanted her name.
Yeah. And by the time she met, my mom had already been engaged, I think like 3 times. That may be a slight exaggeration, but I can think of at least 2. She had gone and lived in Alberta for a period of time and nursed there, and then came back and eventually, met my dad, who grew up sort of a little further south from her. His parents of German immigrants who had a car garage and a Shell gas station. So my Oma and Opa were entrepreneurs, and so he grew up down the road from her, which is how they met in the community. I should also, on my mom's side, she lost her mom very young. So my grandmother passed away when my mom was 20, which is why there's that sort of second set of half siblings. My grandfather married a younger woman. My mom also lost her youngest biological brother, in a bike accident when he was 13. So there was, a lot of, I guess, tragedy is, a lack of a better way to put it. But my mom was the matriarch of the family, from a young age, and really likes to take care of people. I think she finds a lot of worth in being able to take care of people, even if sometimes it's hard on her. And so that's sort of been a role that she's taken, and I think that people have come in and out of her life that have really very much needed that. And she's been there for them. So that's my mom. And then her and my dad met when they were about 23. And my dad is the oldest of 3. And he was born in Germany. And then they emigrated when he was 3, and started the business. And then his brothers are quite a bit younger. I think his second brother is about like 7 years younger, because by the time they got settled, and they came to north of Edmonton first, and then ended up in Southern Ontario as well. And he went to school to Waterloo for engineering for a semester. and partied way too much. He'd never been away from his, my Oma, his mother, and was in a co-op program. So he did his first semester, went to work for the city of Toronto in the co-op, and worked there until he retired at 55.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a young age to retire
It
at.
was.
That's
As
great,
a civil
actually.
servant, he would. And I think that, so my father passed away when he was 63, so almost 7 years ago. And I think about so many of his best friends who were entrepreneurs, who took that path, who still aren't totally retired, who are still working today. But my dad got 8 years of retirement. He got to sit for,
nice.
At least a year and a half and watch the Golf Network on the couch before my mom was like, get up and do stuff again.
He's like, no, but this is my dream.
Yeah, exactly. So a civil servant his whole life. My mom was a nurse until she left work to stay at home with us. And so I think that sort of that like entrepreneurship skipping a generation thing would be true of my family. However, my sister is in a very stable like municipal government job, and my sister's husband is a firefighter. So in my like close family network, I am the only one who not just entrepreneurship, but even like the public sector. The private sector. My family have all done jobs more so in the public sector, not necessarily part of, business or for-profit capitalism, I suppose.
It's funny how that works. It's sort of very similar to my sister and I.
Yeah.
I've always been this person who's sort of followed my curiosities and sort of landed myself in different careers.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a teacher.
Yeah. Doesn't get more stable than that.
No. Just she's a teacher. She just sort of worked her way up to an administrative job, where she's not a teacher anymore, but she's doing something at a higher level. But I mean, but she couldn't imagine doing what I do, and I couldn't imagine doing what she does. But respect. I mean,
Lisa and I
100%.
all the time. And her and I, my sister and I had a conversation years ago where we were like, okay, we don't get it, but we love each other.
Exactly.
And
I respect it.
And that's all that matters.
Totally.
And that is all that matters. And I do think that even I have a piece of that, like, of that part of my dad where he worked someplace for his whole life, which seems unfathomable to us today. But I've worked in hospitality before I started Flax Home and my entrepreneurship journey. And I spent 7 years at Bell Cafe with the Hawksworth restaurant group, which is a really long time to give to a hospitality role. And prior to that, I had been with Fairmont for with a blip to go back and finish university, but for almost 7 years. So I think that part of my family is ingrained in me, that if you do something, you commit to it for a while.
It's like steadfast.
You get as much, you give as much as you can to it, and you get as much as you can out of it. And I think that, especially in the world of hospitality, we see people hop around a lot unless it's their thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the hide in me that stayed for as long as I did.
Oh, for sure.
That and the fact that I really liked it.
Did you speak German growing up?
No. My mom is her family are like of British and Scottish descent,
I see.
But my mom is quite a few generations landed Canadian.
I see.
And so she did not want my dad to be able to communicate with us and her not to be able to understand.
Oh, yes. I mean, that definitely makes sense.
I wish I did know how. And my Oma is going to be 97. She's still alive.
Wow.
And her and my mom have a very close relationship now, which they did not basically until we lost my dad. But for all of those reasons, we don't speak German.
I see.
Yeah.
And would you say that you are the same as you were when you were younger, or was there a huge evolution journey of your personality?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think fundamentally, yes. I think that, I still the curiosity is there, the creativity is there. I think the responsibilities of adulthood can stifle, a lot of that. We can call it our inner child, or just that that dreamer side of us. But I do think that if you were to ask my mom or my sister if I'm any different, not at all. Fundamentally, my personality is still pretty similar. And that is that my sister, like, on the outgoing side, a little bit dramatic from time to time. And I think that I really loved being on stage as a kid. I did a lot of community theater, and that was never going to be a viable career option. I say with air quotes because that is certainly, I grew up with parents who were like, you can do whatever you want to do, but you can't do theater. That can't be the thing. You do whatever. But I think I'm from a generation where the arts as a career wasn't necessarily understood by our parents or our guidance counselors. And so the business of hospitality became this really excellent way for me to get a really practical university degree. I have a Bachelor of Commerce in Hospitality and Tourism from the University of Guelph. But the idea of being on stage, which is, running service in a dining room, or in the case of Belle Cafe, it's not dining room service, but it's taking care of people who come in to see you perform. You're performing as yourself, but it has always, that hospitality piece has always fed that performance piece.
That's so fascinating.
And then I think what I'm doing now, there is less of that in being an entrepreneur. So Flax Home is online. We're an e-commerce based business. We have a showroom in Vancouver now, but that's not our primary sales channel. So there's less of that customer interaction, that performance piece. But there is a lot of the other artistic skills that I get to exercise. So the product creation, the choosing the colors, the telling the story, weaving the narrative of this is this idea that I had that we've now brought to life, and being able to storytell it in that way. So it's less of the endorphin rush of a busy service that you get in hospitality, but it's a whole other creative side of things that I don't know that I ever would have realized was on offer for me as a child, for a lot of different reasons. But I think that, because you're generally pushed into slightly more traditional career paths. And also I went to business school, I did a business degree, but I think that there was a lack of understanding on my own part that entrepreneurship didn't mean you needed your own money to start a business. You need some, but one of the biggest learnings in the last 5, 6, however many years we're at now, 5 years, is that if that business plan they teach you to write in business school is actually so you can go out and get money from someone else, to help bring your idea to life and put something that you want it to see out there for other people to enjoy.
Let's take it back. Let's put a pin in this, and let's take it back so that we can set the stage for Flax Sleep, now Flax Home.
Yeah.
So, University of Guelph.
Yep.
You got your degree. You went into hospitality, and now you're at Hawksworth, and you're running it. You've been running it for the 7 years. What did you learn most about running an establishment in that 7 years? And, it could be anything that's process driven, but it could also be something that's just a feeling.
Yeah. So I ran Belle Cafe, which is the cafe side of Hawksworth Restaurant. And when I was hired, Chad Clark, who has been on the show,
yes,
basically convinced me to do the job, even though I wasn't really sure. I'd been selling wine for a while, and I was like, I don't think I want to come back into the operations side. He's like, no, Anna, you're going to love this. He's like, really, your job is just to get to know everyone in the downtown core of Vancouver and make them feel like you're welcoming them into your home. I was like, that kind of seems like a bit of a tall order, and also not very directive at all. That is very abstract, brief, but okay. Chad's an amazing salesman.
He is incredible.
Yeah. So he definitely sold me on the job. I was like, okay, I won't have to work weekends. I can like manage my own hours, or my hours are mine to solve for. So that means build your team, et cetera. And the cafe had already been open, but I was there to like create this feeling of really what became my home in the downtown core of Vancouver. And I think what I learned through that process is it could be done, and that the way to have hospitality really speak to people is to consider that anybody who comes through the door is being welcomed into your home. And I think that, Chad is someone who personifies that in the way that he does hospitality. There's a few other people who I worked for. I worked for the Oliver Bonacini group in Toronto for a while. And some of the people that I worked under, again, it was that even when you're in fine dining, it's that finding the balance of like, you are being treated as you are the most important guest in our home. I worked under an amazing man called Robin Bourne at the Empress in Victoria, and he had that same spirit. And so all of those people who have continued to instill that into me, and how that reflects customer service, not just in the world of hospitality, but when you're out there in a product-based business, is a way you can really make a difference. And it's because of that brief that I got from Chad that I began to form really strong friendships with the people that came in to Bell every day. And inevitably, two of those strong friendships were with Vivian and Juana, who are now my business partners in Flax Home.
I have a question in and around how one makes someone feel like they're coming into your home in a hospitality situation.
Yeah.
So for you, how did you make people feel welcome and without being like overbearing and being sort of like too much of a show pony, like and just striking that fine balance?
It's about finding, like, quickly being able to figure out the people that want you to be a show pony and the ones that don't, and being able to tweak for that. I think that, something that Fairmont had systematized that can feel really uncomfortable until it doesn't is at Fairmont, it's guest name usage. So learning the name of the guest, and then making sure, if it was me, Ms. Hyde, referring to them by their name to make them feel like they're an individual, they're being taken care of. In the world of cafe culture, it's so easy to do it in a way that feels so natural, in that the method is, I need to ask for your name to make sure you get your coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I need to make sure that tomorrow when you come back, I don't ask you for your name again.
Right.
I've remembered your name.
And you maybe remembered a detail about them.
Well, and yes. And then the next day you come back and you've remembered their drink and their name. And the day after that, you can start asking them questions about themselves, and you can learn which law firm they work at and how many kids they have. Do they ski or snowboard? Whatever that sort of original, like sort of fundamental small talk-ish stuff is. And then it grows from there. And, we sort of would try to have a rule where we tried not to talk about the weather if we could help it. And so from time, we wouldn't ever do this officially, but there was times where me and one of the girls that would run the till with me would be like, let's talk about porcupines today.
Interesting.
and
see how far we can get.
And you couldn't do it with everyone. But, with people who come in on a regular basis, I'm like, I'm not going to ask you well, it's raining out here. But when was the last time you saw a porcupine? And it was the kind of thing that in that environment, so in this, the quality of everything we were putting out and was high quality, but it was about connecting with people personally and making sure they had this moment of levity before they went back to their office. I'm not sure that if I was running the Hawksworth dining room, porcupines would have been an appropriate conversation topic. But yeah, and as someone who is not necessarily great at remembering people's names when I'm introduced to them in a social situation, some people would think that I was bad at it, in fact. It is crazy how good I could get, and sort of push my team to get, at being if this person drinks an Americano, their name is John. And just being able to connect those two things, so much so that in the few shifts I've done at Flowers, I've had people come in and I'm like, oh, I completely forgot you existed, but your name is Paul.
Right. It's almost like a word association type of thing.
Yeah. And it, and it goes really far. And a few people on our team at Flax now are women who used to work for me at Bell. And from time to time, we reminisce over the good old days. And we're like, remember when it used to be so busy in the morning that you'd have a big lineup, but like a regular would come in and they'd get in line and we would know their drink order. So we'd put their drink order through. And nobody would notice what was happening because we could do it so quickly. So much so that by the time they got to the counter, like up to the front of the line and paid, the drink was ready and they'd go. And it wouldn't happen to them every time, but we had this like system that we'd worked out. And it's those little things like that that make people feel like you've welcomed them into your home. And it also means, you know, because they're someone that I already have a relationship with, I could take care of them that way so that this person at the counter in front of me who I've only met once or twice, I can actually spend a little bit more time engaging with and learning more about at this stage in your service, and you're getting to know this operation, and just adapting the way that you take care of everyone that comes in quickly, because it's not a long style of service, but I find it's really rewarding, like in and out, and you've been able to make an impact.
Great system. Yeah, that's a great system because people are like, you've saved them time.
Yeah.
But you've still had a pleasant interaction and they feel cared for.
Yeah.
And I think that's so great.
Yeah. Huh. And hard to train and systematize, but we were a group that worked alongside each other for a long enough time that we've got into a rhythm. And I do feel really lucky that I was given the space by both Chad and David to create a place, a work environment and an environment as a customer where I retained the people that worked alongside me for a long time so that we could get into this groove, so that it wasn't always just me that was making people feel like I was welcoming them into their home, but that there was a team of us that was welcoming people into their home.
And I mean, that's the thing is like about life is if you can make deep connections with people, you're happier and you have more joy. Yeah. So it makes sense that those people would stay because they probably had a great relationship with you and the customers because they were taught. Yeah. So, and that's incredible to have that retention rate.
So much so that sometimes when you bring them a business idea, even if it's like the third or fourth business idea you bring them, they'll be like, yeah, let's do a business with you.
And that's what happened.
That's what happened. Yes.
Yeah. And so to get into like the genesis story of Flex, you were looking simply for yourself to find some bedding. Yeah. And that's how it all started.
Yeah. I had the like longer version. I had some of my favorite group of regulars were our animators at Sony and people who did art as a career. And they were in 2017 really into cryptocurrency. And I had been doing some indigo dyeing workshops in my backyard where people would come over and dye some indigo pillows and eat some sourdough bread. And so I had a little extra cash and I gave it to one of my animator friends and was like, see what you can do with this. And so in like 6 weeks, he turned $500 into $3,500. And I was like, okay, like I don't want to go any further. I'll take that back now. And I bought myself a new mattress and it had a new bed frame made. And then was at the point of the like refitting my bedroom where I wanted bedding and had what I thought was a fairly sizable budget left over to purchase it and wanted linen. Specifically, I really liked linen clothing. I had read somewhere that linen slept cooler. It makes sense as like it's breathable as clothing, but I'm a really hot sleeper. So I was like, I really think I need to be sleeping in linen bedding. And I, at that point, really wanted to buy it from a Canadian company. Also was very unskilled at online shopping. But I tried and I looked around and I couldn't find anything. And so I sent a note at that point in time. Viv and Juana and I had a group chat about sourdough bread because we were doing a lot of sourdough bread baking in 2017 as well. And they'd actually come to a couple of craft nights. They're both lawyers by trade. And so meeting me was like, ooh, creativity. And they would come in a lot and be like, how do we get out of our law jobs? And I'd be like, what about this? What about that? They're like, legally, that's a terrible idea. I'm like, okay, I'll keep trying.
A lot of hard no's.
A lot of hard no's. And so when I couldn't find the bedding, they're like, Anna, just like give us like a half an hour. We'll search the internet and find what you're looking for. They were like, we can't. It, even from a US company at that point in time, it was still hard to find. So like a few days later, we sat at not the porch, like the patio at the art gallery, and had some Prosecco or maybe some Kir Royales, and said, hey, I think there's an idea here. I think that we should start an online company, a DTC e-commerce brand. And I think we should sell 100% linen bedding. We should try to see if we can manufacture it in Canada. We couldn't. It's certainly not at a price point that wasn't pretty prohibitive. Linen is already a really expensive textile. And nobody mills or manufactures it in Canada.
What makes it so expensive?
So it has a lot to do with the growing process. So the crop rotation is like 7 years. And the germination period. So the crop rotation is a piece of it, but the bigger piece is it's a 90-day, I believe it's 90 days to grow, which is like more than double cotton.
Oh, interesting.
So as a direct comparison, it's the cultivation. And then there's linen for textile isn't grown as many places in the world. So it's a supply and demand thing. So Eastern Europe is where, so the flax so linen is made from flax, hence Flax Home. And it was basically that first day where Juana was like, we will call it flax sleep. I'm like, yeah, like that's punchy. Viv and I had no idea that linen was made from flax. Juana was raised in Eastern Europe, and so she knew this. And so, so linen is made from flax. And flax sleep, and then later Flax Home. But the cost has to do with the limited places that it's grown.
Got it.
And
okay.
the cultivation period.
Okay.
And so, so they were like, okay, let's do it. And we, in the next I think Viv probably went out and incorporated us as Flax Home, always knowing that we'd call ourselves Flax Sleep, but we would want a future where we could expand our product lines and not just do bedding. Juana got on trying to source stuff. She is really good at finding things on the internet. So the fact she couldn't just find me some bedding to buy was like,
indication enough. Yeah. There's a gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started sort of reaching out to people for help with brand. So, we have a lot of skill sets. And although I find myself a creative person, when it comes to actual like brand digital representation of things, it's just nothing that I would even be able to come close to touching. And so we found ourselves an agency who also had a developer who could build out our website. We wrote a business plan. We went to Women's Enterprise Center and Futurepreneur for a loan. And Viv had worked at BDC, which is the Business Development Bank of Canada.
Yeah.
And so really incredible understanding of how we could access debt-based financing to start our business. And so, they put us through at the time what felt like the paces. Certainly we've been through a lot more paces since then. But so we secured a loan around the same time, a little bit before that, actually. Juana found a supplier in Shenzhen that it looked like we're going to do what we wanted. We placed an order. It arrived. There's photos of us unpacking it. And I was like, this is exactly what I imagined this linen bedding that I wanted to put out into the world would be like. So we're like, I guess we're going to China. And so in January of 2018, we took like 2 or 3 days off work and flew to Hong Kong, and then did a day trip to Shenzhen to meet our manufacturer. And for a variety of different reasons, there's before you're going to hand over that kind of money, you want to know that they're there. We'd never been to a factory anywhere before, and you want to make sure that it feels like the working conditions feel right, that and you want to be able to like look in the eyes of the people that you're going to start doing business with. And I think that the first order we placed was so small relative to the orders we place now, or even what like a company's minimums are. And I really think that if we hadn't have gone over there and made it really clear we were serious, there's a good chance that they wouldn't have sold us bedding at
right.
all.
They would have said, no, thank
They're
you.
like, oh, these 3 girls, as they called us, the 3 girls, which, we've tried to move away from that. But it was really cute at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like clearly they mean this, and they're still one of our suppliers today. So we still do a large percentage of our product comes from them. They're an amazing family-run factory. And then we also work with factories in Portugal, and we've done some work in Lithuania as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know more about the dynamic between you three. I'd done some research, and there was an article that said, Juan is the brakes, you're the gas, and Viv is the engine. I don't know if that still proves to be true, but yeah, I'd love to know more about that.
That is not untrue. I think it depends. And, this many years down the road, sometimes being the gas can be hard depending on, we've been through a lot in the last couple of years. And I think that the reality is 2020 was an amazing year for our business, despite the fact that when it happened, we were like, this could be the worst, that people wanted to buy things online for their home.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw an incredible amount of growth. Viv and I are in the business full time. And probably since that article, we've grown a team. And so it would have been 2019, 2020, when we knew we were going to start growing a team, Viv and Juan and I did like a bunch of coaching together to make sure that, our friendship is really important to us. And one of the things we did when we were in Hong Kong, in addition to like sort of writing out our business plan and dialing things in, was like write a set of vows to one another, which we haven't revisited in a while. But I feel like the last time we did, we were like, yeah, this all still rings really true. But we wanted to make sure before we took other people onto our team, we had sort of at least been coached with the tools to work through the things that when it was just the three of us, we would sit in Juana's dining room and hash out. She was on mat leave in 2020. Yeah, that was right. 2020. And so that's been really useful for us. But our roles, we continue to try to further define them. Juana is back in her corporate role full time. She still spends a lot of time talking to us, making big decisions, working on the strategy pieces. We did our first equity raise this year.
That's exciting.
And so we've brought on some incredible advisors that have been so valuable for where we are going to take things. And so Juan is still very much involved in those conversations. Having the three of us in a dynamic has always been good. I think that, in a partnership, there would be times where, like, what if you both didn't agree? Who would split the difference? And so having the three of us helps with that.
Right.
And
it could be like the mediator, sort of vote or whatever it is. Yeah.
And so my like official role within the organization is Chief Creative Officer, but that means a lot of different things on a lot of different days. And Viv is CEO. And again, it means a lot of different things on a lot of different days. And we have an amazing team, but we're still quite small. And so we're involved in, things from a C-suite level right on down to like doing some of the output, although it's been really nice to have a team grow around us that gets to do that too. And every day that we realize we don't know how to do something procedural within our company, we're like, oh man, like this means it's working. If there's something that is being done daily that we don't know how to do, that's great. That means we've released growth. Yeah. We've given it away to someone. We need to make sure that it's written down somewhere so that if we had to do it, we could. That those procedural documents are in place. But as our team continues to sort of make decisions and grow the business around us, it's super rewarding.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm curious to know, I was meeting with a friend of mine yesterday, Nick Lowe, and he was one of the founders of Myo Detox. And they grew obviously an incredible success. And we were just chit-chatting about entrepreneurial things. And we were talking about T2C, companies. Yeah. And we were saying, we don't think it's a very easy game. And I'm curious to know how competitive is the space for bedding, and like how do you navigate that competition?
I think that if you are in a space, it feels very competitive. Unless you're some sort of tech thing that nobody's ever thought of before. So I think that, there are a lot of different places to buy bedding. And there's a lot of different price points at which. So like total market, everybody needs bedding essentially. So there's a huge like potential market out there. But then how many people need linen bedding shrinks our market a little bit. Well, quite a bit. And we right now, or since we've started, have focused on linen because it is that thing that we can sort of hang our hats on and say, if what you want is linen, come to us, because it's the only thing we do. So we make sure we do it really well. The other way we sort of try to differentiate ourselves, and this is the part where, being able to lean even more into that like creative officer role, is how we do color. And so when we launched the business, it was, and when we launched the business, I was like, I just want white. Like I only sleep in white sheets. Why would you need anything else? Well, because my closet is full of color. So the fact that I thought that about bedding seems weird, but, and so we are now able to still have those neutral colors, but we really want to bring fun, interesting pops of color in seasonally, which helps with our repeat customer. So DTC is hard, and the cost of customer acquisition just keeps getting higher and higher. And in 2017, 2018, when we started the business, DTC was something that you could gamify in a sense, in terms of there was a lot of brands out there that just understood digital marketing, and they understood SEO and that part, and performance marketing, that whole piece of the marketplace. And they could sell a product through that, as opposed to the part where they built a whole brand. And we, although we're very focused on product, and we think that, most of our customers come because they want the product that we offer, we really care about building that brand, and like a legacy brand, something that will be around and that people, as they continue to be exposed to us, can connect with. And I think that as DTC changes, that brand piece becomes important, and channel diversification becomes important as well. So for a long time, we're like, we don't have margins for wholesale. We wouldn't want to drop ship. That's something that we need to carefully look at as our business evolves, and is a huge, huge focus for 2023.
I'm curious to know, is there any opportunities because I'm just thinking about hotels, which you came from.
Yes.
Do hotels have linen bedding? I'm trying to think of like when I stayed in hotels, they usually choose more cotton or high-end cotton, right?
And it has to do with like a lot of things, but just like friction and linen and friction. There's a wear that happens in linen. Like linen is a durable natural fiber, but I wouldn't put it in a high volume hotel. And so what the perfect place for linen in hotels or in hospitality is more of like your Airbnb vacation rental style. See. So a lot of people are like, oh, the first time I slept in linen, it was in Italy at a cozy,
at
an inn in Italy.
Right.
And so that is a part of also sort of, as we grow our business, actually offering a really sort of specific vacation rental package to people. And there's more and more shoppable vacation homes and Airbnbs out there, where people actually integrate brands into their experience and then become affiliates of that brand, so that if people stay at your Airbnb on Flax Home's linen and they love it, if you link, if you tell people that's what they're sleeping on and they purchase from your link, you get a kickback.
So interesting.
So we're working on building that out. That's actually one
that's super smart.
Yeah.
I see. And your last collection was inspired by Portugal. Yes. And so what are we looking at for next year? Can we know?
Yes. So the Love Letter to Portugal is what we're currently released right now. And so that is started in the spring, and our last couple colors came out just probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I mentioned that we have suppliers in Portugal, and we started working with them in 2020. But in 2021, I was able to go and visit. And I'd already been thinking about color that I thought we should work with in 2022. That's the year we're in now. And the colors that I'd sort of envisioned, I got to Portugal and saw them everywhere.
Oh, amazing.
So we have a terracotta color that is like the roofs in Portugal. There's my favorite color is juniper, which is this deep green that is painted on the doors in Portugal, but throughout Europe, like you see like doors in Paris that are that similar like deep green color. And then this beautiful color, this beautiful blue, which is a personal like favorite blue in fashion for me, that we've called azure, that is the Portuguese like blue tile. And then we also have mint, which was like the fourth color that I wanted in the collection. And as I was in Portugal, I'm like, I don't know how we'll work that in. Like I can see it in some of the foliage and things. And then I got to Porto, and like the first two buildings I saw were painted this like mint color.
It was meant to be.
It's meant to be. It's meant to
It
be.
was so meant to be.
2023, which is what's coming, is a collection that we worked on with Jackie Kaialis.
Love Jackie.
Yeah. So Jackie, we did our first collaboration with Jackie was in 2020, and we did a kitchen collection called APT based on her home in Paris.
Okay, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, so that we have done. That was 2020. And then last year we were like, I think that we were in a space where we're like, maybe Jackie wants to come on and help us with product development and innovation, and her and I can work together on some of the things that we have planned for 2023 and beyond. And so the colors that we're just ordering now for 2023 are Jackie's color palette.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So really exciting.
I feel like I might need some Jackie colors in my home.
I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah. Are they more? Okay. No, I'm just going to wait. I have so many questions right now. Actually, she and I are supposed to catch up, so maybe I'll ask her a little bit of like, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and we worked, and it's so interesting, the like product life cycle, which is so different than hospitality, which is so immediate. But we worked on this in like February of this year, like long before she had Kai. Like we're working on stuff that then we won't actually see come to fruition until next year. So it's a long lead time. Which is
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Something else that I love, you and I were talking about before we started recording, is that in case there are any returns, which, doesn't happen often, those get donated to Atira, which is a really great organization.
Yeah.
And I feel like a really great way to give back in that way. So that's so great.
When we started the business and we knew it was going to be DTC, so online, and you were trying to sell someone bedding, we felt like you really need a strong return policy. You need people to know that if they didn't like it, which again is not, our return rate is low, but if they didn't like it, they could return it. And we also knew that we didn't want that to be waste. That was not going to feel good. And so who could we donate those returns to give that product another life? And so we call it a safe place to sleep is sort of
that's great.
The tagline for it. And so we were connected with Atira. And so all of our returns are there, go there. And every time we don't drop them off, like the people that work there, like these are really appreciate it when they go out into the community. And we make donations to Atira as a business, as a percentage of sales twice a year. And then actually right now we're in our Black Friday period. And we've added an option to have our customers make a small donation directly to Atira as well. And it has been the most rewarding part of this like period of consumerism, which is very important for our business. But it's been so amazing to see that almost everybody's made a small donation. And
that's
we'll
great.
Be able to pass along to Atira as well. So,
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So that is really wonderful work that we've done with them. And now because our showroom is on East Hastings, so in the downtown East Side, we're very close with many different Atira sort of initiatives, including one called the Enterprise Women Making Art, which is this beautiful like gift shop of things that women who live in the downtown East Side have created, and it's on the same block as us. So
everything is close by. That's near and dear to your heart.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I just have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
The first question being, okay, so now it's Flax Home.
Yes.
So what can we expect under home? There's the bedding, but is there other things? Is there going to be like loungewear and all of those other things?
Yeah. So when we switched to home, we added, it was around the same time that, just after actually the kitchen collection with Jackie, we also have an heirloom dyeing collection that we launched this year as well. We do some things for the bathroom, so 100% linen waffle towels that I love. I just got some samples of a new sort of tote bag, both in a daily size and a weekender size, that we are working on that will come out early next year. There's a world where we, in addition to 100% linen, look at starting to do some blends so that we can offer some different price points to the market, which feels really important right now. And another big project, actually, which is still part of sleep, but is creating the perfect duvet insert for our duvet covers, because not all duvets are created in the same size. What if every queen bed is the same dimension, but every queen duvet is not? So those are some things on the immediate horizon. And then, is there a world where loungewear is part of what we do? Yes. We definitely need a more fulsome design team to get there.
Yes,
clothing,
it's coming.
Clothing
it's
sizing
coming.
is coming. So yeah. And I think for us right now, staying in the soft goods space is where we'll continue to play, but that doesn't mean that there's not some interesting things we can do.
With
candle collaborations,
with everything.
Right?
I was thinking about that. I was like, I think there's probably going to be
other
candles,
things
maybe. I'm sure
other
will
things
come.
out there. Another thing that I'm really excited to work on, probably for 2024, is everything we do right now. Again, lots of attention to the color and where it came from and how it works on the season prior. But we haven't done much pattern. We have some stripes, and we've got some like really subtle pattern coming on behalf of Jackie next year. But like actual something bold,
like what's in your closet,
like what's in my closet. And so we've started a few conversations, but I have a dream where, we work with an artist to create something that can be printed onto a duvet, so that you're actually like,
you're sleeping in art.
Sleeping under art.
Yeah.
So
like
that is a creative project that I'm looking forward to making sure sees the light sooner rather than later.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking, sorry, I'm so fixated on the candles. I went into Coco and Olive, or A Olive, on Main Street.
Yeah.
And they've really built out the retail section of the cafe. And they had those, like these beautiful tapered candles in all kinds of colors.
Yeah.
And I was just like picturing like flax and all of your different
the colors to match the... Yes, because sometimes I think about candles as like the scent, and I find that scent is very specific. But tapered candles to match the color.
Yes, and I never thought of it until I got them as a gift from the artist Zoe Pollock. When she came to come see me, she brought me these beautiful, like kind of minty green candles, and I loved them when I put it in my little candle holders, and then I lit them, and then the way they melted, it was just I really loved it. So anyways, just the thought, colored candles to match your collections.
Amazing.
Okay, and so 2 more questions. With Viv and Juana, how have they been mirrors for you over the years, reflecting things about yourself that you hadn't seen before?
I think that in my past careers, you haven't been working with friends. You've usually been working for men. And I think that at the risk of people who I've worked with hearing this, Viv and Juana are 2 of the most intelligent women I know. And not that I haven't worked for people who are smart in the past, but when you're in hospitality, it's a similar skill set, right? Like your playing field of what you understand and how you do things is quite level. So to enter into a business with women who have been trained in something entirely different than me, who look at things in an entirely different way, has reflected back sometimes, to be honest, frustration with the like, why don't I see it that way? Why can't I edit things as well as they can? Like, why am I missing that? And also sometimes this sense of like, because I I hold them in such high regard in terms of like, in so many ways, I sometimes forget that, well, if I think that or thought that or know that, they must think, have thought, or know that. And then it has been a constant exercise of me reflecting back to myself that like, no, actually there are things that I know, or things that, you know, some of that like innate creativity stuff that I do need to make sure is shared, and that is part of what I bring to this group. And I think that, you know, we're really good at knowing what the other one is good at. And I think for me, it's continuing to push myself to be like, yeah, like this is the thing. And that if I don't know that thing that they both know, that's okay. And that's why I'm in this business with them. Right. And that sometimes, you know, I could have found other people in hospitality who thought the exact same way as I did to like, and got them on board for this crazy ride, but we would not be here because we all had the same skills.
Right.
And so I don't know if that exactly answers that question, but that's sort of how I see myself through them. And sometimes it's hard, but I think it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah. You can't grow without the hard and the discomfort. So yeah, no, I agree. Okay. Maybe I have two more questions. Okay. That was like three. What brings you joy in life? Other than taking care of people. Yeah. Like okay. Outside of that.
Yeah. Which is the good call out for anyone who's been in hospitality, because it's defaults, right? I think things that are beautiful but unique. I think, you know, like honestly, like bright colors and seeing things that are special work together. This is like, I'll take it back to Ubuntu. I go on Saturdays after I get groceries and get a canelli. And I remember looking up at some of like the plateware in this like beautiful sagey green and just being like, that's so beautiful. Like that piece of ceramic makes me really happy. And so I think that like, that's the thing that brings me joy, that I think I can directly relate back to sort of this product-based business that I'm in. And then the other thing I think is community, and the people around me. And I think that from a young age of being able to connect with people from a lot of different diverse backgrounds, I think that I've built a group of friends around myself that are an incredible community. And then I think that in this entrepreneurial journey, the community that's come alongside that, especially Vancouver is a city with a lot of amazing female entrepreneurs that are incredibly supportive of one another. And the joy that that's brought is for sure the biggest gift in this whole entrepreneurial journey. The getting to like, you know, deal with beautiful textiles and put those out in the world is, you know, that's a very like, I guess in like intrinsic, like, you know, tactile joy, but the community is like, amazing. It's
always
amazing.
It's number one. Yeah. It's number one. Yeah. I am really glad though that you mentioned, you know, going into Ubuntu and, you know, getting your little treat and then seeing the ceramics. Yeah. I don't know where I read this, but it's an exercise that I did a number of years ago, probably 5 or 6. And it was a simple directive, and it was write out your magnetism list. And what that meant is, cool. What are the little things that bring you joy? And I have like an ongoing Google Doc that I copy every year, and I fill out my goals and, you know, how I want to feel every year, and then my magnetism list. And most of this is the same. I never remove anything, but sometimes I will add things. So it'll be things like, I love when I see black and gold together. I love when someone smiles at me and I see a twinkle in their eye. I love when I see old people holding hands. Like that kind of magnetism list. It's really fun to do because it allows you to just appreciate the tiny little things and tiny little moments that happen around you and for you.
And I think that, back to Jackie, and I think that like getting to know her and knowing that that's so much of that like simple beauty is something that she values so much has been, as part of that. I know her because of this greater entrepreneurial community, but that beauty and joy is something that she's always like,
she's very good at it.
Amazing. And it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah.
My final question.
Okay.
With what you do, what is it that you want to leave behind?
Yeah. I was really nervous about this one because I listened to the podcast and I thought about it a lot, and I pulled two of my best friends and I was like, I'm going to be on this podcast, so we need to talk through this. I think back to that community of female entrepreneurship and that understanding that if you have an idea and you want to try something, that you can, and that, it can be harder for women there are more barriers, especially when you get to a growth stage and you're looking for access to capital, or even at that beginning stage where I didn't know that I could write a business plan and get debt financing. So I think that, continuing to be able to help other women in business understand how to get where we've gotten to, and as we continue to get further, be able to help people grow. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I also think that it's not too old. You're not too old to follow a dream. And I'm not that old, but Vivian and I were on the later side of our 30s when we started this business. And, a lot of the amazing people we've met are generally much younger. And so when you've been established in your career, and I feel like you and I have even chatted a little bit about this, that the stakes are higher. But that doesn't mean that it isn't something that people should try, because I think that I want people to know that if there's something that you feel passionate about running down, you should do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you should, if you feel like you can, you've got this, like, just do it. Yeah. Because I also feel at this, this age and stage of life, you probably have enough experience that, say the lesson is like, you tried your best and it didn't work, for example. You are smart enough and probably connected enough to get a job. Yeah. But what if it was 30 years down the road and you're reflecting and you just say, oh, I really wish I did that. Mm-hmm. And then it might be a little bit too late,
Yeah. So I want people to know that if they want to do something, they should try. And that if you're a woman and you want to start a business, that you should. And that I want to, be able to make sure that we can continue to support women that want to do that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and bringing your energy into this room. And every time I see you, just big smiles and laughs. And I've really, really enjoyed getting to know you.
Thank you.
And I love this new friendship.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. We love you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
As always, thank you for being here and for listening. To learn more about today's guest, visit the episode page for show notes and links on wearethecraft.com. You can find the entire podcast archive here or explore more conversations with past guests on Spotify and Apple. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on these platforms, including YouTube, to get notified when new episodes drop. Any likes and shares on social media are deeply appreciated too. Sound and audio engineering for the show are by Andrew and Jay Bagaspis. All guest portraits and images are by Juno Kim. Appreciate you all and see you again soon.